So last year I reviewed the Galaxy Book Pro, and this year I'm reviewing the Galaxy Book Pro 2. It's essentially the exact same design, as it should be. This is the second iteration of it. They're just not going to radically change the way it looks. And I think the two main reasons to buy a Samsung laptop over other Ultrabooks of the standard is for the ability to pair it with your Galaxy phone. If you've ever wanted the continuity that Apple offers in their ecosystem, the closest you're going to get to it is with a Samsung laptop and a Samsung phone. The other benefit is how light this thing is. This is a 2.5 pound laptop. That's very light for a 15-inch form factor. Now, the design is very sleek. It is using a metal chassis. The top of the lid doesn't have too much flex, but if you get the darker version of it, it will pick up a lot of fingerprints, and I mean instantly. Like, you take this thing out of the box and you put your fingers all over it, it's going to get dirty quite quickly. It has a decent amount of I/O with a full-size HDMI port. You have a USB Type-C port, which you use to charge the laptop. It comes with a, I think, 63 watt or 65 watt brick in the box. And then you have a Thunderbolt 4 port, which you can use to connect a dock or an external GPU. And then on the right-hand side, you have an audio jack, a USB-A port, and a micro SD card slot, which is great if you want to add some external storage. Now, you can open up the laptop with one hand, and just like the previous model, there's a tiny bit of wobble. It's not too bad. I feel like if you're typing on this thing, the screen will not move. It doesn't go all the way back 180 degrees, but it goes back enough, and the hinge is quite stiff. The beauty about this guy is that you have a full-size keyboard, including a numeric keypad. Now, this is great for those individuals that are using this for work, because I know a lot of you like that numeric keypad, but the drawback to this is you have to squish the keys. Like, typing on this feels absolutely fantastic. Like, even though there's a shallow travel distance, like, pressing on these keys feels great. The only thing I don't like about this keyboard is the enter button. I just miss it all the time, you know? Like, it needs a bigger enter button so that when my finger's over here, I can hit it appropriately. Touchpad, absolutely massive. It's very accurate. I complained on the previous version that there was a bit of a delay. It seems they fixed that. And on the previous model, if you pressed on the deck of the keyboard, the mouse would click. But it looks like they fixed it with the second iteration. But the star of the show continues to be the display. It's still using an OLED panel like the previous one. It's also still 1920 by 1080, so a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, which is obviously preferred for watching content. But in my heart, I really wish they went with 16 by 10. It's just a much better aspect ratio for productivity. Having that extra vertical space does make a difference. And I have a feeling in a future model, they will change it. Now, it is brighter. The previous one topped out around 350 nits. This goes up to 407 nits, but it also shares the same peak brightness of 500. Webcam has also been upgraded. Previous version was 720p. This one happens to be 1080p, so you will see an improvement. Plus, Samsung has their studio software installed, so you can do things like auto reframing, or of course, blur out the background when you're on a Zoom call. Now, performance is the other big upgrade, just because the CPUs this year from Intel are better than the previous year, and this one happens to be using the i5 1240p, paired with 8 gigabytes of DDR5 memory and a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD. Everything from the single core clock speeds to the multi-core clock speeds are significantly faster than last year's 11th gen processor. Now, I do think Samsung could have pushed this laptop even further if they put proper cooling inside of here, because it's still very conservative at the end of the day. Like, I don't suggest picking this laptop up if you're going to be editing videos all day, or if you're going to be crushing through hundreds and hundreds of raw images from your high megapixel camera. But this laptop is really geared towards students, people at the office who are doing a lot of document processing, using the web mostly. Then this is where this thing really excels. And heat management reflects that. Like, don't get me wrong, it can hit the 90s, but it's not going to do it for too long. And then Samsung will limit the power that goes to the CPU to obviously keep it cooler. At the end of the day, Samsung is prioritizing fan noise over everything else. Like, this is actually quieter than the previous Galaxy Book Pro. I think at performance mode, this one measures at around 46 decibels. The previous one topped out at 48. Now, I know there's going to be 2.5 people in the comment section asking me if you can game on this. This is still using an Iris Xe integrated GPU. It's starting to show its age. So yes, you could, if you play older titles, things like League of Legends, which can run on anything, Overwatch, if you don't mind dropping the settings. but it can do it. It's not going to play any newer titles comfortably, but if you want to squeeze something that's very well optimized in, it will be able to handle it. Now, internally, much easier to get into. It still has 4 screws, but the little feet that pop off are no longer stickers. They're just like little inputs that you can pry off, and it just, I don't know, makes the laptop easier to get inside. But they have upgraded the cooling. On the previous version, they only had 1 fan. Now they have 2, plus a copper heat pipe running across the middle, which does help with thermals. And they're no longer using a M2 2242 short drive. This is a full 2280, which should give you better read and write speeds depending on the drive you buy. But the one they're using here doesn't give you the best read and write speed. So if you want something faster and more storage, you can upgrade it yourself. There's also a second slot on the right-hand side to add a second drive if you want more storage in the future. Wi-Fi 6E card is soldered onto the motherboard, and of course you have a 67 watt hour battery, which is very similar to the previous one. I'm getting about 10 hours of battery life before needing to charge, so this is about 2 hours less compared to last year's version. In all fairness, the 11th gen processor from last year was more efficient than the P series this year. So I think the big question is, who is this laptop really for? Like, if you're looking at this to crunch out 4K video edits and do 3D work, this is not the laptop for you. If you want to do a little bit of light compiling, it can handle it. But this is for the individual that's doing a lot of productivity. Like, you live in a browser, you're using Office and Word, and it has the processing power that you could play some games very lightly, but you're nowhere near being a hardcore gamer. The most important thing, though, is that you have a Samsung phone, because it gives you some of those continuity features that Apple users have been using for years. All those baked-in Samsung applications, which there's tons on this laptop, give you that flexibility to quickly share a file or use your inputs on this device to control your Galaxy phone, tapping the display to share a movie. A lot of those little things. And if you've always wanted those little things between your phone and your laptop, this guy's going to do it. This is a productivity machine, a machine that's light and easy to carry. And I think this is a good option for a student or for someone in the office who's crunching a lot of office work. I hope that sums it up. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.